This is News Center Maine at 6.
Are parts of rural Maine turning into maternity deserts? That's a concern being raised by medical professionals across the state. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Brian Yacono. By July 1st, Maine will have lost 4 delivery units where babies can be born and cared for in their first days of life along with their mothers.
That means expectant parents will have to drive farther when it comes to the time. And right now, 10 of Maine's 16 counties each have only one hospital with a birthing unit, and Waldo County has the distinction of having none within its borders.
That's because Maine Health Waldo Hospital closed its birthing unit just over 4 weeks ago, the first of 3 units that are closing in quick succession. That's all on top of the 5 other birthing units that have closed now since 2018. And with each closure, some parents finding themselves traveling a lot farther for care or finding other options.
Here's News Center Maine's Christian Harsa.
So running a hospital today is probably harder than it's ever been in the history of healthcare.
Over the past decade, Maine has lost 11 delivery units. These closures create what Maine Hospital Association President Stephen Michaud calls OB deserts.
We're going to have a big one here in Maine, unfortunately, after Holton closes. There will not be OB between Presque Isle and Bangor.
Holton Regional Hospital is closing its birthing center Friday morning, following recent closures at Waldo Hospital in Belfast and Inland Hospital in Waterville.
Which is hard to really wrap your head around.
While funding is a factor, Michaud says years of declining birth rates are the dominant force behind the birthing center closure trend.
And when you're having a baby once every other week, every 3 weeks, there's no way they can be keeping their skills up.
Northern Light Maine Coast Hospital President John Ronan says low birth rates can make recruiting dedicated child delivery professionals difficult.
They want to make sure that they have a number of babies that they're delivering, and you know, that's probably the most exciting part of their job.
And Maine's aging population means hospitals are facing rising demand for elder care at the same time birthing rates are falling.
2 completely different ends of the spectrum, 2 completely different sets of needs.
To see birth rates start to climb in rural Maine, possibly thousands of young people would need to move and begin families, which Maine state economist Amanda Rector thinks is unlikely.
We're competing not just with other states for a limited pool of younger people, but with the rest of the world.
Statewide, Michaud expects more delivery wards to close, but he also expects the number of birthing centers to stabilize in line with birthing demand.
I'm not saying we're there yet, but we're not too far away from that.
Christian Harsa, News Center, Maine.
Today marks the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon, the beginning of the end of America's involvement in the Vietnam War.
Most of the military veterans living in Maine today served in that war, and now some of them, along with local and national labor advocates, are fighting a new fight against proposed Trump administration cuts to the Veterans Administration. News Center Maine's Donovan Lynch has more from the State House.
It was an emotional press conference at a union hall in Augusta as labor leaders, many of them veterans, spoke forcefully against efforts by the federal government to cut jobs. Much of the concern focused on a plan by the Trump administration to cut more than 80,000 jobs from the Department of Veterans Affairs by the end of the summer. That's according to an internal memo obtained by the Associated Press. Now, the layoffs would come after the Biden administration expanded the VA's workforce during the pandemic. Speaker after speaker today warned that these cuts could jeopardize services that veterans rely on. Others also drew attention to the potential impacts of larger cuts in federal government, saying that federal jobs are often a lifeline for those who have served.
The federal government is the highest employer of veterans in this entire country. So we start talking about cuts and we start talking about direct effects to our veterans, that starts inside the federal workforce.
I don't think the public really understands what veterans who serve in combat go through and see. You don't unsee the things you've seen. They stay with you and sometimes haunt you. That transition back to civilian life can be challenging, and the real support is needed.
Now, the Trump administration has maintained that layoffs in the Department of Veterans Affairs won't translate to cuts in veterans' health care or benefits. In Augusta, Donovan Lynch, News Center, Maine.
Schools here in Maine are serving more students from low-income families, and meeting some of those students' needs can get expensive. And like other local leaders, Biddeford's Mayor Marty Groman is trying to find a way to meet that growing need. Groman is trying to get lawmakers to get behind two bills. One would increase the reimbursement funding that districts receive for every economically disadvantaged student. The other would increase funding based on how many students in the district are experiencing homelessness. Despite the fact that these bills could lead to state tax increases, they are receiving support from some Republicans who say it is important to invest in education.
Machias is a good example where they get a very small amount of education support from the state, but they have very high level of economically disadvantaged students.
I see it as a priority, and I trust that our budget committee will work and try to come out with a proposal that best represents everybody and can reach a 2/3 mark.
Republican State Representative Will Toole, who you just heard from there, is co-sponsoring one of the bills. He says both could ultimately benefit taxpayers because schools are largely funded by property taxes. Still ahead right here tonight, you may have seen them yourself, reports touting the health benefits of all things maple syrup.
But those reports have been called into question, as well as the man behind all the data. That's later. First, though, businesses in downtown Portland sounding the alarm about what's happening right outside their doors as News Center Maine at 6 continues.
Earlier this week, Portland's City Council got an earful from business owners about a recent uptick in incidents of unhoused people verbally accosting their employees or their customers.
And they say they want something done about it. It appears many of the alleged incidents are happening in a relatively small section of the city, Monument Square. News Center Maine's Alex Haskell went there today.
Generally, it's been fantastic.
Ari Gerson has been running Longfellow Books in Monument Square for a decade. He took it over after his father died in 2015.
This is a magical space.
But lately, he says the magic has started to fade. Gerson says some of the unhoused people who gather in the square have made the area unsafe.
No one on my staff has been hurt, but people have definitely been scared. People have been definitely verbally accosted, as they come to work. I have.
He's also witnessed excessive drug use. All of this deterring customers and putting added strain on businesses here.
I just know we can do better. Portland's better than this.
Data from the Portland Police Department shows just how much the area has changed. In an 8-week period last spring, there were 9 calls for service in Monument Square. This year, that number jumped to 47 over the same period.
It's a public safety hazard.
Portland Mayor Mark Dion says he's seen the situation firsthand and agrees that action is needed.
And I think it's incumbent on the city council to do whatever we can to support the city manager's strategy to clear that out.
Portland Police Chief Mark DuBois is also responding to concerns. In a statement, he tells News Center Maine he's aware of what's happening in Monument Square, and the city's community policing unit is giving extra attention to the area to help ease some of the issues, especially on business owners.
Over the past year, we've seen a sharp increase in drug use.
The concerns of Gerson and other business owners gained attention earlier this week when several spoke before City Council. Gerson says the response since then has been encouraging.
I think we've really tried to shine some attention on this issue because it is an important one.
He acknowledges there's no easy fix. Moving forward, Gerson hopes the effort to find a solution is collaborative and compassionate.
Everybody deserves to feel safe in a public space. So let's get there.
In Portland, Alex Haskell, News Center Maine.
Our team says they saw officers clearing people from Monument Square today. Preble Street, which provides services to Portland's unhoused population, says they appreciate how businesses in Monument Square are speaking about the issue and says the solution requires more investment in affordable housing, health care, and addiction treatment. Keith's forecast when we come back.
And later, UMaine students taking the day to pay it forward.